here visiting back in the United States. He's been on a missionary effort in Tanzania, Africa, for the last 3.5 years. He has with him his wife, Jessica, 2 of his daughters, Arabella and Juliet. They have another daughter, Lorelei, who is going back today to college at Freed-Hardeman. And then their son, Claude, he's back home with family in Tennessee, I understand, helping out with the chicken farm. So this morning, we have him here to report on the work that he and his family are doing in Africa. So he's going to have a presentation during our Bible class here this morning, and then he'll be preaching for us later this morning. So without any further ado, I give you Noel Stafford.
Good morning. I do appreciate the opportunity to be here and want to thank you, not just for your support, but for your prayers. There's a lot going on in Tanzania, not just with us, but the work, and so we ask you to continue that. I'm passing around a board, a clipboard, and you can put your name and your email address. If you're not already getting our newsletter, we send one out every month. So if you enjoy today and want to continue to see what we're doing, we do put one of those out just about every month. But you can also follow us on Kilimanjaro Missions if you're on Facebook. While in Tanzania, Jessica's usually very good at just reporting about what we're doing on a more day-to-day basis. It might be life of Africa, or it could be about the work that we're doing. So if you're interested in keeping up with it and not just waiting every 2 years for us to show up at your front door, get on the email list or follow us on Facebook. A little bit about us. My name is Noel Stafford. I'm here with my wife, Jessica Stafford. We have 4 children. As he mentioned earlier, 2 of them are with us today. The other 2, Claude, he's working with my father-in-law, and then our oldest daughter, she's a sophomore at Freed-Hardeman University. We are from Clifton, Tennessee. Before moving to Tanzania, we were working on the farm with my in-laws, and we were doing that for about 5 or 6 years before moving to Tanzania. Now, I have a lot to say today, and so if I rush through certain things, it's not because it's not important, it's just there's a lot to talk about, and so just bear with me today. First of all, I want to talk about Africa. Before I moved to Africa when I was a kid, when I thought of Africa, I thought it was just one big country, but that's far from the truth. Africa has 54 countries, and you can see all of these there. Now, Tanzania is on the southeast part of Africa. You can see, a lot of you have heard of Kenya. We're just south of that, and then we're just north of Mozambique and Malawi and countries like that. Now, Tanzania is a very big country. There's over 71 million people in Tanzania. You can see right here where it's circled at the top, Arusha and Moshi. Even though we work in Moshi, the work that was started in the late 90s, which I believe y'all supported back then, started in Arusha. And so I like to mention both because we are part of both works. In Arusha, there's over 600,000 people just in the city. And then when they mention the region, you can see there's 1.8 million people in the Kilimanjaro region and 2.3 million in the Arusha region. Now, when you're talking about region, I think that's kind of like us talking about states. And so that's kind of how, it's not separated like we do, but that's kind of give you a ballpark about it. Now, you can see how close Arusha and Moshi are. You go, oh, okay, you probably go there all the time. Well, even though it's only about 45 minutes, the road is mostly paved, it's still probably about a 2.5 hour drive. And so we don't go to Arusha as often as we'd like just because of the traffic and all the police. And so while it is close, we don't get to go there as often as we'd like. Now, I'm showing this to give you an idea. As we talk today, I'll mention all these little small villages that we work at, and I'm just trying to show you kind of where they are, compared to where we live. We live right in the city of Moshi. Mweka is probably the closest one. It's about 30-minute drive. It's as you're getting at the foothills of Kilimanjaro, and so we do work at Mweka a little bit. Our focus is mostly, other than Moshi, will be Boma and Gombe, which is probably about a 40-minute drive. Arusha, like we said, is about 2.5 hours. And then you got Senya. Now, that's more bush area. That's where the Maasai live, and that's probably like a 2.5-hour, really hard bush drive. And so we go to all these different places, but Senya is definitely the furthest place that we go to. A little bit about Tanzania. You can see here, this is the Tanzanian flag. And we're very fortunate just in the area that we are in. In Arusha, where my parents live, Si and Stephanie Stafford, this picture of Mount Meru was taken off of their back porch. And so this is something you get to see every day in Arusha. And then here is Kilimanjaro. Moshi is at the foothill of Kilimanjaro. So on a clear day, which is not too often, we have the fortune we can see it from our house, Mount Kilimanjaro, which is like around 19,000 feet high. Now, we are very fortunate also in Tanzania as one of the best places in the world to go to see wildlife. We have the Serengeti, which most of you probably have heard of. That the wildebeest migration is there. We also have something called the Ngorongoro Crater. And there's also numerous parks to see wildlife. And any African wildlife, for the most part, we can be there within 3 or 4 hours from where we live. And you can see the cheetahs, the leopards, the elephants, the monkeys and giraffes. And I could do a whole presentation on the many animals that we have seen. But if you want to see those, you have to come visit us. So it is one of the perks of being over in Tanzania. And anyone that does come do a short 2-week mission trip, we definitely always plan that. But of course, this is why we're there. The Tanzanian people. They are very unique people, the people in Tanzania. It is a third world country. They are a very poor country. But these people are very loving. They're very hospitable and very kind and very generous. But the best part about being in Tanzania and the people is their willingness to study God's Word. It's so easy just to walk down the road and just start a Bible study. Just like anywhere else, not everyone says yes, but they're a lot nicer to you. They don't slam the door in your face. They just say they're not, like if they're busy, they might even give you another chance to come back. But in general, if you just nothing planned, just start walking and go to different places, you can have 5 or 6 Bible studies in a day, no problem, if you're willing to walk around and knock on doors and visit people. And so anyone that truly wants to do evangelism and actually do Bible studies and know with confidence that you can do several Bible studies in one day, Tanzania is the place to go. And so we really love being there. We love the many opportunities that we have day to day. Now, a little bit about us, me and Jessica. We both come from missionary families. This accidentally didn't happen. Her family lived in Russia for about 5 years in the mid-90s. And then, as many of you know, my father and my mother, they lived in the Arusha area since the late 90s. And so we've always known I wanted to do mission work. I lived in Chamala on the other side of Tanzania when I was a kid. And so I always knew one day I would be there. Well, then in 2002, I went with a group from Freed Hardeman, and Jessica happened to be in that group. We went on a 6-week campaign, worked in Moshi and Arusha. We actually went on our first date on this mission trip. It's been 23 years now since we met. We've been married for 22 of those, and so this is one of the things that we always wanted to do from the beginning. We loved Africa. This was her second trip to Tanzania, and so we both loved Tanzania from the beginning. As you know, in 2020 we started this campaign. We knew in 2020 that we wanted to move to Tanzania, but because of COVID and everything happened, it took us a little bit longer than expected, but 2.5 years later, we were in Tanzania. Now, the first 4 months we lived in Arusha, where this picture on the top left is my parents' house where they used to live, so we stayed there the first 4 months. In those 4 months, we acclimated to living in Tanzania, learning the area, but also it took us that long to find a house and find a place to live. And you have to do that right over there because there's a lot of things that you got to get just right or it will mess everything up. So it did take a little time, but fortunately in October of 22, we actually moved to Moshi. Now here is the church at Moshi now. When we moved there was probably about 25 to 30 members. Now on a Sunday morning, we're probably looking at minimum 45 up to 55 members. And so Moshi Church is slowly growing, and we're very fortunate to be part of that. I do want to introduce a few of the people I work with on a day-to-day basis. This is by no means everyone that I work with, but it is the ones that I work with every day. The first one is Evans Mamburi. I hired him originally to help translate, just so I wouldn't have to worry about finding someone every time I wanted to go out and evangelize. But he has become more than that. He does translate for me when I need him, but this young man is out there 8 days a week. He's out there evangelizing, doing benevolence. All the programs we talk about today, his hands are in it. And so we do appreciate everything that Evans does for the work, and he is really the glue that holds it together. Stanley, he's a member at Moshi Church. He wasn't even there when we moved there, but he eventually moved to Moshi. The good thing about Stanley is he jumped in when he moved to Moshi. Wasn't getting any support, wasn't getting any help, but he was out there evangelizing with us a few days a week. And then later on, because of the cost of transportation and everything, we're supporting him a little bit just for transportation. But now he's in charge of the radio program that we do, the evangelistic aspect of it. And so we appreciate what Stanley has done. Nestor, now his primary work is in Arusha. He goes around teaching at some of the schools in the area, teaching the Bible and does evangelism. But usually once or twice a week, he comes and works with us, mostly in Boma, but sometimes when we go to Senya, which we don't go to every week because it's so far, but he's heavily involved with those two works also. And then we have Emmanuel. I'll talk more about it in a minute, but the church in Boma that we were working with didn't have a preacher. And so eventually we were able to hire him, and he's a great tool, not just a preacher, but an evangelist in Boma. We'll talk more about him later. And the two ladies here, they're just great Christian women that we worship with, but they're hands-on in every aspect of the work. They do have jobs, and so they are working sometimes, but generally speaking, when we go out and evangelize, they're part of it. But they don't need me to be there. They're out there doing evangelism, doing benevolent work, visiting the sick. And I always mention them because they've really been the glue that's held that church together over these last 20 years, and we appreciate what they do. And just a few weeks before we came home for furlough, I met with all these people we talked about today with a couple of extra guys. We were having a campaign right before we left, and so we had a lunch, and we talked about the work that we were doing. But I wanted to talk to them also about, I'm going to be gone for 3 months. What's the plan? I didn't want the work to stop. I didn't want them to just take a break and sit there. And so we had this meal that day, spoke for a few hours. And so these men, they're working. If you follow us on Kilimanjaro Missions, Jessica's been posting what they've been sending to us. And so they continue to work, and we truly appreciate them. Now, like I said, we're very busy. And these are just the kind of highlights of some of the things that we're doing in Tanzania. And so I just want to briefly go over all of these. And like I said, I won't be able to go into detail, but I will try to give you an idea of some of the different things that we're involved in. The first thing is we do an annual campaign. We've been doing this every year since we've been there. The first year we were actually able to do 2, but there's 4 aspects of these campaigns that I want you to know that we're doing. One is evangelism. These campaigns are usually 3 or 4 days long. Every morning about 9 o'clock until about 1 or 2, we're out there evangelizing. And so we have probably between 20 and 30 people that come and help. They're not just people from Moshi, they're all the area congregations, which there's probably 25 to 30 congregations between Moshi and Arusha. And so we get a lot of men, especially the preachers, that come and help. And so we're just focusing on evangelism in the mornings and the early afternoons. And then in the afternoons around 3 or 4, we have an open air meeting. What we do here is we go to a place like a market, and we set up a tent, set up some speakers, and we share the gospel with them. We share the good news with them. And so we spend a couple of hours doing this, speaking out. So even if they're not sitting under the tent paying attention, they can hear us in the market. The ones sitting on their motorcycles, the transportation guys, they hear what we have to say, and they are paying attention. So even the ones that aren't just sitting there listening, hundreds of people are hearing the gospel. Now, the third part is we always give a Q&A aspect to these open-air meetings, giving those in the crowd opportunity to ask questions. Most of the time, it has nothing to do with what we talked about. It's just biblical, spiritual questions they ask, and so we try to give them the opportunity to ask anything that we are able to answer. And then the most important part of the campaigns is follow-up. And one of the main reasons we have these campaigns, it's really a jump start for the year for us, the evangelists, to have 30, 40 Bible studies already set up so we don't have to necessarily go look for them. And so we get the phone numbers, especially for those that aren't from Moshi, that just get the Bible study started. And so throughout the year, we take advantage of these campaigns, and we go follow up, not just with those that obey the gospel that short few days, but the ones that continue to study God's Word. And so these campaigns are definitely a great opportunity for the Kilimanjaro team to evangelize throughout the year. Now, we also do seminars. We do probably 5 or 6 of these every year. Now, we have the church seminars where we come in on a Saturday and spend the whole day here. We'll have 4 or 5 classes, a meal, but we'll cover different topics. Like one time we talked about church growth, what we needed to do. One was aspects of worship. When you do evangelism in Tanzania, people have a lot of questions about instrumental music. People have questions about baptism. They have all these questions that the evangelists know the answers to, but not necessarily every member in the church. And so we talked about these things through our seminars. But we also do other seminars. You can see we did that every year in June. They have a Tanzania-wide youth seminar. This is generally for the older youth. Now, to clarify what youth means in Tanzania, you're about 13 or 14 years old up till you're married. So if you're 35 years old and still single, you're still considered a youth. And so even within our church, the young people, it can be a 35-year-old man. And so the people that come through, we had, I think, 120, 130 people come to this seminar in Moshi last year. And they go to different cities every year. And so we were fortunate to have one in Moshi last year. And it was a great turnout. We covered topics that the young people wanted to learn about that they don't always get to learn. And so we did enjoy this seminar. Now, for those who are ever interested in doing mission work, especially for the ladies or the teenagers, we love to do children's seminars. We don't just do them in Moshi. We've been to Boma, Usa River, these different villages. And when we have a guest, this is one of the things that we can utilize them with, is go into these villages and do children's seminar. I know we had these 2 ladies come for a couple of weeks, and we did 3 children's seminar just in a few days. And so this is a great opportunity, especially for our guests, to do this kind of thing. And then in Moshi, every month they have a ladies' seminar. Now, They come together, just the ladies of Moshi, to help encourage one another, learn about God's Word. But they also do benevolent work every month. And so it's not just about the seminar. They usually, in the mornings, they'll do some type of benevolent work. And then after that benevolent work, they'll come together and have a seminar. And so this is very encouraging for the ladies to have, and we are very proud of them for that. Now, the Future Teacher Training Camp started last year, which if you're reading our newsletter, you probably know something about this. For the last 20 years in Kisongo, where the preacher school is, they've been having the Future Preacher Training Camp. This is a great tool for young men like 13 to 18 to be a leader in the church, learning how to sing songs, learning how to write a sermon, how to do public speaking. And they've been doing this for 20 years now. And we see proof at our church in Moshi of this working. We have some young men in their 22, 25 years old who are great speakers, who know how to preach, who know how to write a sermon, and it's because of the training camp. Well, they haven't had anything for the ladies. Jessica and a few ladies in Kilimanjaro and some of the missionary ladies came together and decided they wanted to start something for the young ladies. And the biggest need in Tanzania, especially within pretty much any church in Tanzania, is nobody has children's classes. We don't understand why they don't do it. We don't know if it's because they're just not trained or they didn't think it was needful. And so they started this camp. And so in this camp, it's not just about teaching them how to do a Bible study or teaching how to teach children, but it was also teaching the importance of why we have a children's class, the importance of why young ladies need to get involved in the church and not just sit in the pews and that's it. And so it was a whole week camp, training them and teaching them why it's so important to be a teacher and teach young people in the church. But they also, Jessica and the ladies came up with the children's songbook. This did not exist 2 years ago. They found some English songs, some Swahili songs, and translated everything into Swahili. I think they got roughly about 50 songs now. And so they're slowly learning these songs, teaching these songs, and that was part of the camp. That every day they were learning several songs, and so they can go back to their churches and teach them. Now, we've gone over some of this, but I want you to know what they came up out of this. First of all, they got a certificate showing that they graduated from this camp. But at the end, they knew songs they could lead in Bible class when they went back to their church. But Jessica and the ladies also prepared them a packet. They had 20 lessons packed so they could to teach. They had coloring pages. They had songs. They did a trivia knowledge, which I know this was a lot of work for the ladies to come up together and then translate it. Just like when you learn the books of the Bible, learning the old law, the new law, these different trivia questions, and they put this together so that the children can learn them. And then at the end of the week, there would be a group of 4 people, and these 4 people would have a children's Bible class and did it in front of the ladies, and they would critique them and tell them what to do, not to do. And so now, Lord willing, these 10 to 15 congregations that these young ladies are going back to now have children's classes. And so we do plan to go this summer, or she does, to go to Chamala to do the same thing there. And so we hope to do this every year, but it will need some annual support to do this for mostly transportation and help run the camp. And so this was a very exciting thing, and if you have questions more about it, talk to Jessica. She can give you more details. You can see the packets they handed out. Here on the right is them doing their presentation. So they did a wonderful job, and they really did enjoy it. They wanted us to come back next year. And so it wasn't just something we were excited about, it was something they were excited about too. Now, of course, the main reason I'm in Tanzania, the reason we went over there is because we want to be evangelistic, and that's our main focus in Tanzania, is to do evangelism. And the first year we were there, we primarily focused on Moshi. We thought that was important, and that's what we did. But in time, we've learned that we need to evangelize not just in Moshi, but other areas. But the first thing that we learned that we need is the tools. The tools that we needed, one is Bibles. We always, every month, I try to buy at least a case or two of Bibles, because you'd be surprised, very few people have a Bible. And the Bible over there costs around $10 or $11, and so that's a lot of money for them. And so most people don't have a Bible, and if they do, it's very ragged and probably 20 or 30 years old. And so when there's a need, we always try to have extra Bibles with us to give away. Secondly, copiers. When we moved over there, we had no way to print tracts or anything, and so we were very fortunate to be able to do that now. We have Why Am I a Member of the Church tracts. We have Steps to Salvation tracts. And then we also have Bible correspondence tracts, and we don't have to go get them printed. We were able to print them at the church building, so we were able to get that. And then when I talk about Senia in a few minutes, you'll understand why we need this portable baptistry. They had people there that had been wanting to get baptized for years and were unable to. And so because of this portable baptistry, we had over 30 baptisms just in Senia alone. And so this is a great tool to have in Tanzania. Now, church planting and church revitalization. First of all, I want to talk about Boma. When we moved to Boma, this building, you could see the open windows, and the reason the open windows are there is because it had been very vandalized. The windows were ripped out, the doors were ripped out, and the place looked really bad. You can see that's what it looked like. And so over many years, when the preacher had passed away, the numbers dropped a lot. When we arrived in 22, there was 3 ladies, 1 teenage boy, and a few kids. And we saw a need. So someone from Moshi actually started going there every Sunday to lead the worship. But we saw that we needed to do more than just that, and so we started going out there once a week doing evangelism. And after months of doing that, we saw we need an evangelist here full time. The guy here on the right, like the man I mentioned at the beginning, his name is Emmanuel. He's been there almost 2 years now. Not only is he the preacher, but he's also the evangelist. And so he's doing a wonderful job there, and the church is growing. I want to show you, we had a gospel meeting there after we remodeled the church building, and I want you to see what it looked like just a few months ago. Here, that is the same building we were just looking at, and thanks to donors from America, we were able to do that. And this, I know the building doesn't matter when you're talking about the church, but when you're talking about the community, when you're talking about what we represent, it does make a difference, and we saw drastic changes immediately. We had a campaign that we talked about we do in Moshi once a year. We did one of those in Boma, and that Sunday, you could see we had 70, 80 people there that day. We went there just a few weeks before we came here. I think we had 27 to 30 members there. And so the church there in Boma is growing, and we appreciate the work that they're doing. But we're not just leaving it to Emmanuel to do by himself. Our team goes there almost every single week. We spend the day doing evangelism. The day we went there, I think 2 or 3 weeks before we came, we actually had a baptism. And so the work continues, and it's growing slowly in Boma, and we really appreciate the work there. Now, the Waco Church, this is the one that's pretty much in Moshi, but just right there, like at the foothill of the Kilimanjaro. You can see here on the top left, this man is called Ernest. Now, the first time I met Ernest, he was a member or a student at our Bible school in Moshi. Ernest right there, when he was attending that school, was a Pentecostal preacher. During our first campaign in 23, Ernest obeyed the gospel. And so not long after that, he had graduated from the Bible school. And I'm glad to say in November of 2025, he graduated from the preacher school at Andrew Connolly. And so now, just a few months ago, so it's still in progress, we have a preacher at the Mweka Church that can do a lot of good things. And so we do hope to do a lot of good work in Mweka. It's slow going. Since it is at the foothill of Kilimanjaro, where the church is, it's basically a big coffee plantation. And so these people, it's very hard to do evangelism in this area because everyone's working all day, every day. And so it's been a struggle doing evangelism there, but we continue to work. And now with Ernest there throughout every day now, I think it's going to make the evangelistic efforts in Mweka better. Now, Senior, I probably could spend the rest of the time talking about Senior, so I just want to briefly talk about it, and if you have questions later, we can talk about it. Like I said, we evangelize in Boma every week, and so we were doing our normal evangelism. This man, we weren't even studying with him. He was just listening behind us. Well, he comes to us after the Bible study, and he says, "Can you come preach at our church?" We didn't know what that meant. So we actually loaded up my car, and we did a 2-day seminar where he was at, but it was a lot further than we expected. It was about 2.5 hours away in the bush. There's no bathrooms, no electricity. The phone worked a little bit. Well, he spent 2 full days there doing evangelism, teaching them what the truth of the gospel. And the man that brought us there really enjoyed what we had to say, but he also knew he couldn't afford to go there back and forth. So he asked us to take over his church. We asked him what denomination they are. He said that they weren't, but we learned more. It's probably more Pentecostal-based church. But now, Senior B, which you'll understand why I said B in a minute, is now the Church of Christ. Like I said, there's been 30 baptisms in the Senior area. The problem with this area is that they speak Maasai. That's a whole different language. The main language in Tanzania is Swahili. So our group, nobody knows Maasai. So we had to find another guy to come join us in Senior. And he's on the other side of Kilimanjaro. And so we recruited him to come to Senior to worship on every Sunday so he could preach to them. And he wouldn't need a translator because he spoke Maasai and Swahili. But he also goes there once or twice a week to do evangelism. And then our group goes there once or twice a month to do seminars and encourage. And we bring the baptistry with us if anyone wants to obey the gospel. But we learned probably about 2 months in that there's actually a church about 8 kilometers away. And at this church, which it was a small one, probably 10 or 15 members, there was Andrew Connolly School of Preaching graduate, a young man by the name of Joshua. And he was doing a good job, but he had very little tools. He didn't have a place to baptize people, but he did have a core group that had been Christians for a while. And so now, almost a year later, these 2 churches are working together. Like I said, there have been over 30 baptisms, but Joshua and then Emmanuel, the guy on the left, they are going out 2 or 3 times a week doing studies. And so the church in Senior is growing fast. Like with that many baptisms in that short amount of time, we expect great things there. Now, one of the downfalls there is they don't have a building. And generally in Tanzania, people are fine worshiping outside. But during rainy season, it can be complicated. And so they are requesting the building in the future. And we said, if they continue to grow and continue to do what they're doing, we can always look into building a building, probably in between the 2 churches, because they're about 45-minute walk. So it's a little too far to go to the other one. But if we built one, we actually right before we left, we did get some property. And so the next steps will be to build a church there. But we are very excited about what we're doing, the work that's going on in Senior, and we know it's going to continue to grow. Now, part of the work, especially in Moshi, some of the bigger cities, is working with the youth. Jessica does a great job at doing some fun things for them. We have movie nights, game nights. You can see here at the bottom we've had youth seminar at our home. We actually took not just the Moshi young people, but some of the other members from other areas, and we went on this hike at the Rau Forest Reserve. We really enjoyed that. But they do also, for the young people, have a camp every year. This is more for children. It's just like our camps here. They do it at the Preacher School in Kisongo. Both years that we were there were over 150 kids. The first year there was 20 baptisms. Second year was roughly 20, and then I think we were home this time, but they had 10 baptisms in 2025. They have their camps in December. That's their summer. The hottest time of the year in Tanzania is usually December, January, so that's their summer. And so that's when they have their Bible camp. Plus, that's when the preacher students are home, and so that they utilize the dormitories for that. Now, I talked about some of the fun things we do for our youth, but I do want you to know our youth are very involved with the work that we are doing, the church is doing. They're not just sitting in class. They're teaching the class. They're leading songs. They're teaching the classes. They're doing it, going out with us to evangelize. Several of the young men are out there translating for the guests that come. And so we keep our young people very busy, the men and the women. We are in Tanzania. We are in a third world country. So the benevolent aspect of the work is unending. Obviously, me and Jessica do things behind closed doors a lot of times. But we try to get the church involved with the benevolent work. And one of the things that the church does is the director of the school and the preacher is running kind of like a foster home. They're not necessarily all orphans, but they're all kids that need a place to be. And so currently at this place we have 8 kids, and they are part of the church now. They've been there for probably a year and a half, 2 years now. And so we do appreciate every one of these. I think there's 7 or 8 kids now. And so they're part of the church. They're part of who we are. But we try to help them out as much as we can by supplying food when needed, bringing them clothes and toys. And so while it's not part of our work, we do try to help these young people out. Now, like I said, the ladies are very good about doing benevolent work. Two of the bigger ones that they do is the children's home, but also they go to the nursing home once or twice a month. And then you can see here Jessica, she goes to one of the local NPOs and teaches these young ladies to sew. And then the church got together, I think it was early last year, and we went to visit some of these. It's a home for the kids with disabilities, and we brought some bed sheets for them that they couldn't afford to replace. And so the church is trying to do more benevolent work that they never really thought about before. Now, we were very fortunate to start a radio program in the Moshi area. And the great thing about the radio program that we started, it's not just Moshi. The radio goes out to all these small villages surrounding us, and it even gets close to Arusha. So we know there's thousands upon thousands of people hearing our radio program. Now, our radio program is on Sundays at 8 p.m. It's once a week. It's a little pricier than you would think, but so we can't do it more often. But it's a great tool. It's a live program, so people are calling in, asking questions. I know one topic they got stuck on for like a month because they had so many questions. People were calling in, asking questions, and so we know they're listening. And I talked about Stanley earlier. He's the one on the top left. Now, all these men are involved with the radio program, and we all do our part. But Stanley's the one that, when we get text messages and we get people that call, he's the one that reaches out to them, tries to continue answering these questions that they have. We've had several baptisms because of this radio program, and it's a great opportunity. The radio people also gave us 2 programs on Sunday mornings, or not Sunday morning, throughout the week, like early in the morning, like 5 or 5:30. And so we do a recorded program twice a week also where we could share the good news. But another good thing about the radio program is anything that we're doing, we are able to share Like if we're having a campaign, if we're having a guest, whatever we're doing about the Bible school, we're able to share through there. Now, I've ran out of time, and I still got more, so I'm going to zip through a few of these. Our Bible school is a great tool for the work that we're doing. The great thing about our Bible school is for Christians and non-Christians. It's kind of like a preacher school, but it's just you're going through the Bible and learning it. That's all it is. And so for a non-Christian, it's a great way not just to learn about the gospel, but to learn what the Bible actually teaches. But for a young Christian who just obey the gospel, what better way to grow to mature as a Christian, to go through the whole Bible in a 2-year span. It's an afternoon program, so pretty much anybody can come if they're willing to sacrifice 2 years. And so the school has been a great tool, not just in Moshi, but we have one in Arusha also. In 24, we had 8 graduate, and so hopefully next year we'll have, I think 6 or 7 are in school right now. And so we do plan to do a lot more work with the Bible school, which we'll talk about later. Of course, the main reason we are in Tanzania is to share the gospel, to have people obey the gospel. In the 3.5 years, we've had, I think, 95 people obey the gospel just through our work. Now, there's hundreds and hundreds of them that obey the gospel in Tanzania overall, but the word is being spread. People are hearing and obeying the gospel. Now, some of our goals is to aid in the growth of the church in Moshi. We want to continue with the Bible school and let people know about it. We continue to work with area congregations. We want to continue with the youth in Moshi to encourage them to grow, to mature, continue the evangelistic efforts, not just in Moshi, but surrounding regions. And in time, we do want to reach out to some new areas that don't have congregations, that we want to evangelize that area, have church plans, and so we want to continue in those efforts. Our future plans, one of the big things is that the Moshi Church is worshiping in the Bible school, and the Hoover is our overseeing congregation, has big plans for the Bible school in the upcoming few years. They gave us a 1-year deadline where they're going to renovate the building. And so we have 1 year to raise funds to plant a church in Moshi. So we want to build a church for the Moshi Church so it could be separate from the school. And so currently we are trying to raise funds first to buy land, which is not cheap since we're in a bigger city, and then build a building. And so that's one of our goals for this furlough, is to raise funds for that. We want to help with the church at Senya. This is not immediate, but something we're planning for the year. And like I said, we do have big plans, not just for the church in Moshi, but for the Bible school. They want to renovate this building, which is, that's Hoover's handling that. But we're trying our best to help the church relocate and find some land and then build a building. Where can you help? Above all else, I know you're praying for the work, not with just us, but the work in Tanzania, and we appreciate that, and that's the most important of all 3 of these. Monthly support, you can see, I don't know how much you remember from our last trip, but things are growing. The work that we're doing in Senya, that was not planned. The radio program, that was not planned. And so we've had to stretch our dollars thin, so the monthly support definitely needs to grow. And then what we talked about, the building, the land alone is going to be like $50,000 in Moshi, and so our goal for this trip is to get the land so that the church can relocate. And that's our goal for this trip and our plans, and we know you are doing a lot for us, and I just want y'all, before anything else, to know how much we appreciate it. Just as a reminder, Hoover Church of Christ, which is right outside of Birmingham, Alabama, is our overseeing congregation, but they're actually over the whole work in general also. And so not only do they oversee our funds, they oversee our work. Daniel Gaines, he's the coordinator of the work. He's doing a wonderful job. He's there 2 or 3 times a year to visit and to check in on us. And then Harold Rhodes, he's an elder at Hoover. I talk to this guy at least 2 or 3 times a month. We always stay in constant communication, so he knows what's going on, and we just appreciate what they're doing. We do, again, appreciate what y'all do for us. As you can see, there's a lot going on. I could probably talk for another hour, go in more detail about some of the things that we're talking about. You can see our table back there. If you missed it coming in, please look at it. If you missed the clipboard that we passed around, put your email address and you can keep up with the work that we're doing. I know time's about up, but does anyone have a question? I know there's more to say, but we've ran out of time today. And if you don't have a question now, you're welcome to reach out to me or Jessica after worship today. Yes, sir. Honestly, more people are learning English, so it makes it a little bit easier. Swahili is not a hard language to learn. Reading it is very easy. I mean, we do the songbooks that we have no problems reading. The language is easy to learn. I'm just a slow learner. My wife and the kids are picking it up very good. I'm just a little bit slower than them. But in general, if you're in the city, I don't know, I'd say 40, 50% can speak some English, but in general, that's why I hired my friend Evans to translate, because when you're talking about God's Word, you want to make sure everything's right. And we are very fortunate where we worship. We have, I don't know, at least 5 or 6 guys that can translate it well enough to a sermon. So it's important to learn the language. Jessica, we both took classes. It stuck with her. It didn't stick so much with me, but it's important to learn the language. I know a few missionaries that were able to even preach in it, but it's not a hard language to learn, but more and more of the young people are being able to speak it, though. I appreciate your time. Again, we have that board back there. Please visit it. There's some bracelets for the kids. Y'all welcome to grab one, and we have cards back there too. Y'all grab one if you want. Again, thank you, and if you have any questions, reach out to me. Thanks.